Thank you. Okay, I have to speak. I know. Thank you. You may not want to cry, but yeah. Well, I can't check if you.
I have to hire Rhonda. Her presentation was so good. I expected nothing less, but I was like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I know. So we have that in the space of the thing, it becomes raising prices. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, you're you know why I was starting to. Yeah, he's not as the time. Oh, that, you know, he's in one of their name, but I'm not. Gonna get my name, but. Oh, yeah, let's see. Yeah. Right. I don't remember the, do I remember the URL? Apparently so. Yeah.
Okay, so Steve Potter says we're live, so I can start anytime. So I hope folks won't mind if I get started. It's going to be fairly casual. This is very similar to the demo that I did for our staff when we were moving over. I'm going to talk a little bit more just sort of generally about it. And then I'm going to talk about some things that I hope we do next, because I know we are not yet using Aspen to its fullest potential. And I'm really excited for when that happens. You know, any day now, any day. Everything is always a work in progress. So this is the Aspen site for the MLC. So the MLC has its own logo. And so this is sort of a general landing page that we link to from the MLC site. And this is the one that we link to from the text messages that our patrons receive about their holds and overdues. So they are sent here. And then we also have enabled, I'm going to call it branch switching, because that's what we used to call it on our old system, but I've added in links on this main bar here so that we can then navigate to any of the member libraries from here. And we can look at a pack that is specific to our individual libraries. So each library can have its own branded instance of Aspen, and that means a logo at the top. And then you can also do so much with the color customization. So you can see that the Richmond Heights look here is very different from Webster Groves' look right here. The colors are completely different and the layout of the page. This is test, which is why there's not covers. So you can go ahead and forgive that. But here we are on the main page. We've got, of course, our library logo at the top. We've got a main navigation bar here where you can sort of send patrons wherever you think is going to be useful for them. So I've got branch switching over here at the front. We have a link to our advanced search for people who love their fancy search terms. And we've got drop downs for some of our sort of main digital library vendors. And then over here, library specific information. So we're linking out to the calendar, to the library website. You can link your people to the city's website, wherever you think that will be useful for you. So this is customized for each MLC library. As we scroll down a little bit, we see our main search bar. Talk about a little more in just a second. But these 4 boxes here, they're called browse categories. And it's just a way to draw your patron's eye to certain types of things. And you get to set these up. These are customizable by library. So we're just using some sort of general ones to bring our patrons to the new materials that the libraries are purchasing, because that's usually what they are on the lookout for. So you can see here we've defaulted to new fiction. And then just underneath, we also have these subcategories. So if you then click juvenile, you are looking then, you're browsing the covers of all of the items that then match this criteria. These are really easy to change, and that is a task you can delegate to staff to do on a regular basis, but they're also dynamic. This search is pulling items that were added in the last either 3 months or quarter, so it is updating every time the library is adding materials. You can also create browse categories that are based on certain topics, you know, women's history, Black history, so you can focus on something that's salient to your patrons that you think will bring them in so that they can place some holds. I sort of love the cover view. You do have the option to click grid. You know, if you don't want to judge by just the cover, you can go ahead and judge by the title as well. So patrons always have that option if they want to customize their own experience. And that's something that we see throughout the rest of Aspen too, that patrons can usually click a button to say, make the covers go away, make this a little tidier so that I don't have to see all the visual clutter that the graphic designers worked so hard on. So just browse categories here. You can see we've got subcategories, new Blu-rays and DVDs. Oof, we're going back to cover. So those are our browse categories there. So I'm going to click into one of these and just show you what the title display looks like. Ooh, really very salacious items here on the front. So I'm looking on this here for the title display, and it's showing you one of my very favorite parts of Aspen, which is they're called, I think officially they're called grouped work displays, but colloquially people call them roll-ups. So this is an Aspen roll-up, and I'll show you more what that looks like in a second. But what it is it's a Ferberization that pulls together different formats where things match where the title and the author, so the 100 and the 245 are matching. So it's pulling them together and then sorting them for you into the different formats so that at a glance, your patron can see, we've got this in large print, we have it on audiobook, we have it on Hoopla, and we have it available on, you know, on these other sites. And then we've got buttons here to the right. You can see that differ based on the kind of thing it is. In case this is small at the back, this one says access online at Canopy. The other ones here say place hold, so you can click on those. Place your hold. Now I'm just gonna run. I'm gonna check my notes actually. Then I'm gonna run a quick search. All right, so we're back up here to our search bar. Default is keyword. I think patrons like keywords, so we're just leaving it on that. And so I wanted to do a quick search for a popular book that is called. A hard one. I'm going to type in women and 50,000 results. Actually, I'm curious now to see if it's going to put the Kristen and Hannah right on top. Ooh,
Only 160,000.
and it's a Hoopla thing right on top. That's okay. So here we've got a pretty standard search, but we do have a couple of nice features. We've got format options along the top. If your patrons are a little bit more visual, they can click on any of those. I'm told that these icons are customizable. We haven't customized them, and that's okay. That's a down the road thing. And then on the left here, you can use the filters on the left-hand side to narrow down. You can choose if you specifically want e-content. There's a nice one here. Say you want Hoopla or Canopy or Libby. Available now at is very useful, especially for our folks who really do drive from one library to another. Our libraries are very close together, so we have a lot of patrons who go to several different locations. So that makes it really easy for them. We can also click here, Equinox worked with us to get this sort of middle level button that you can see there. It says MLC St. Louis. And so when they click on that, they can see holdings from any of the MLC libraries instead of all the MEC libraries. So they can see things which are truly local to them if they do feel like making a drive for their materials. See, I really was hoping Christina would be at the top, but she's not. That's okay. So we're gonna go by number of holds best match. And I feel like that should do it. Because I want to show you something that has a lot of formats. I think that shows off the roll-ups best. All the women. That's all right. So here we can see the roll-up of the Nightingale. We've got our book edition on top, audiobook on CD. Down here, Libby, Hoopla. We do have direct links to those, so patrons can actually check things out on Hoopla and on Libby straight through the catalog, which is a blessing and a curse, but you know, it does provide use, and that is what we want. We want patrons to use the materials as much as they can. This helps, I don't want to say overcome, but it addresses some of the particularities of a catalog where we want Mark to be specific and say, this is a paperback copy, this is a hardback copy. The roll-ups take everything that is a book and they roll it up together. So if a patron clicks this place hold button, they might actually be placing a hold on one of several different TCNs. The system might look at several TCNs and say, well, here's an available book item. So I'm going to go ahead and place the hold on that because it is available. But you all well know, I'm clicking on a button that says show editions. And within that, we can see, here's the different actual TCNs that make up that section that's called book. So if a patron is particular about paperback or pocket paperback, they can come here and do, sometimes you have to do a little bit of guessing. Not guessing. You have to say like, is 21 centimeters the size of a pocket paperback? And then they might place a hold on that one. But if a patron wants to be specific, they can do that here by placing a hold on one of the individual editions rather than just the book level place hold. So those are the roll-ups, or I'm sorry, those are the grouped work display. And I keep saying that because if you're ever working in admin, it is not called roll-ups, it is called grouped work display. Another thing that I really like is that there is predictive text here. So, oh, no, that's not going to do anything. So typing in rainbow and I'm waiting. So maybe I'm looking for materials by Rainbow Rowell, but the catalog is bringing up suggestions for the patron to send them off in a particular direction. So if they start typing in STE for Stephen King, but they're not sure if he's a V or a PH, like this will lead them perhaps in the right direction. So you can click on any of these to run the search there. So pretty helpful for patrons. I'm actually not 100% sure whether or not the Evergreen pack has that. So if it does, sorry. I also want to show for not every reader is a good speller, and that's okay. Aspen does a little bit of help if you type something in that is sort of demonstrably wrong. So I've typed in reindeer with an A, like a deer that's got rain on it. And you can see instead it has run a search for reindeer spelled correctly. If I want to instead search for deer that's got rain on it, I can do that. But otherwise, the catalog is sort of leading patrons towards something based on their misspelling. And it's not even being overly judgy about it. So that's really lovely. Platypus. It took me a little bit to think of things that I could misspell. Like, So here we go. So now it's searching for platypus. Look at this little guy. So if it is a material that's available from our library, this will say available at Richmond Heights, or if it's on the MLC level, it will show any of the MLC libraries and it will show that it's available there. Otherwise, it will say available from another library. And when you click where is it, it will then show you a list of everywhere that title is available. Actually, it'll show you if it's not available, but it's in bold if you can actually go and get it. So I want to take you into the title display one more time. So instead of that quick dialog box that we got on the main page, here we are in just the full title display. So we're coming in, we can see that we've got the title from Syndetics. I believe it also pulls the description from Syndetics. Several things on this page are from Syndetics. We've got the copies, which we also saw in the dialog box there, more like this. I'm not 100% sure who generates that, but I'll think on it. we do have a novelist integration where this is something I will talk about a little bit more later. You can see there are lots of options down here at the bottom. You can choose to have these expanded or minimized by default when patrons come to this page. So our similar titles from Novelist is not quite as cute as it used to be. So this is something that we are considering for the future. You can still see, if you like to see Mark and a staff view, you can still see the super fun information down here at the bottom. If you want to know which TCN like you're really looking at, this is the place for you to come. And then I'm not even going to go over the placing hold. It's pretty good place. You click the button to place the hold. So, all right. Ooh, so I want to talk about a couple of fun things that Aspen does. And one of them is called placards. For this one, we're going to go to Kirkwood's page. So there are several ways you can add materials to your catalog to draw patrons to either library of things or to events or to things that are happening in your community. And that is that you can create something that is called a placard. And a placard is this guy right here. It says, read great books, attend great books clubs. And it's got the upcoming times for the book clubs. It's got the titles for the book. That's based on the keyword search up here that I typed in. Stephen Rowley is one of the authors of an upcoming book club. So the library has created this placard. You can set it to run for a specific amount of time. So you can have a staff person make the book club placards for the next 6 months and just schedule them out. Aspen will start displaying them on a certain date and it will hide them on a certain date. And you don't have to worry about making sure that you go in on April Fools to make that great joke that you planned on. You can just do it ahead of time and then not have to think about it. It's great for when the first of the month falls like on a Saturday and you're not there that day and you need to take down the women's history display so that it looks like you're not on top of it, like that kind of thing. So these are called placards. I think they are fun. This is a link as well. So when I click on it, it's going to link me out to the Kirkwood event page. So if you need to do sign up, if a patron does a search for constellation and you want to say, don't forget, we have telescopes, or don't forget, we have an upcoming program, this is where you can put that kind of thing. I have one more example. You can do a bunch of different keywords too, so you can keep it real general. Like you can make a placard that'll probably show up on basically every search if you really wanted to. Only one placard will show up per search though, so that's something to keep in mind. So I've typed in AI marketing because I know that there is a placard on this page, practical strategies for your business. AI marketing is an upcoming program. And if you click on it, it'll take you to more information about the program or a place where patrons can sign up for it.
Hey, Heather, I've got a question about
Sure.
that. Do you know if there's any way to track the success of these?
If you had a URL for your placard that was like bit.ly or something else that would track the clicks, you could track clicks on it like that.
So there's nothing in the back end of Aspen admin.
I'm not immediately aware of it. That doesn't mean it's not there. And that's a very good question.
It's a lot of work for staff to make these and get them scheduled. And so it's like, is it worth it for them to do it?
So I guess my thought would be that if you've already got things that you're putting on other social media, or if you have website banners, like since so many libraries have rotating banners on the front page, like just, you know, maybe even you just do it for the 3 or 4 banners that you already have created. If it only takes,
We have
yeah.
Evergreen. You know, like our story times, they're always going to be there. So we have placards for that.
Yeah.
Passports, if they're searching for a travel book. So, but it's the more time specific for the programs.
Yeah.
That I think about.
probably like one books and like big things like that you would do, maybe the little ones, maybe not. But if it's a story time one, you want it to just always show up for story time, as long as it's a general image. Why you couldn't, I think you should. Let's see. So want to show another fun feature here. It's doing a search for Miranda July. And so we've got some canopy things. Trying to find a certain book. I wanted to show that in addition to browse categories, you can create lists. And this used to be on a list, and now it's not on a list anymore. Okay, well, I'll find another list. I'll just take you to lists then. Do a quick search, because if you want to have a list to promote certain kinds of materials and have it searchable on Aspen, you can do that with something called lists. You can assign this to staff. So they can make one that you just sort of want to have all the time for all your book clubs. So patrons can really easily browse your book clubs. If you want to have all your library of things together, add those to a list. Or if you want to have one that's like, here's all the authors that we have had come to the library this year, and have patrons look through that. You can create a list here, and then it's searchable when when a title is added to one of these lists, and then you search for it in the catalog, it'll have a little link to the side that says display. This is part of a list, and you can click on it and go to the list and see other materials which are similar to it based on whatever criteria your library has decided. This one is, can't see who owns this one. Oh, thank you. So this one was made by a specific library to promote their adult book club kits. So that you, and this is a stable, there's a stable URL for it.
And I think that's something also important to note, is that some things are very library specific when you make them, and then some are consortium, to where lists are viewable. So there are some that have caused our patrons frustration. So we actually have lists turned off.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do as what we have as well, so. Make it less.
So you can say we don't want lists from other libraries, or you can say we only want lists that we've made, or you can say we can see lists from anybody. There is something I think to be figured out between the Aspen libraries, because if someone makes a list that's like notable ALA books from last year, like that is a list that would be nice to share. So is there a way for just one of us to make that list and share it so that everyone has access to it without also having access to a book club kit list from each of the other Aspen libraries? So some of that things can be centralized, like every library here is making a list of the show me nominees. If we could have just one list and then all of us could do it, we wouldn't have to each have a staff person put 5 minutes into it. So that's a conversation I look forward to getting into at some point. Okay, I'm just going to log in and show you the patron sign. If there's anything overdue, this is just a test account. So once the patron is logged in, if they click on their name over here, they are taken to this whole menu option here. So when I click on check out titles, it shows the open hours for the library, which I really love. And patrons can scroll down here. Because of our integrations, it will show things that they have checked out on Hoopla and on Overdrive and Libby, as well as their physical items, which I think is pretty nice, actually. At least for me, to remind me that I have those things checked out, especially on Hoopla. It is all too easy to check something out on Hoopla and then you never go back to it because you forget that it's there. Patrons can also use the left-hand side over here to navigate between things they've got on hold. And it also shows your Libby holds, which is really nice. They're coming eventually. So we can see here. And of course, you can make changes to those holds, freeze them, I don't know, pick them up. You can change the location, which I think is nice, especially for our patrons who go from one library to another. And then when we get into the test system, I'm going to show you another feature for patron accounts, which we have not put into place yet, but which we will at some glorious future point when we have time to look at new things to add. But within the patron account, you can also do a couple of things that I've always loved in the pack, which are you can create lists of materials for your own future reference. So you can make a list of all the picture books that you want to check out for when your niece visits next month, and then you can place holds on those at a future time, or you can have lists of garden books for all the great things you're going to do but next month, so you don't want to place holds on them yet, but you don't want to forget about them. So if you want to have a TBR list, you can have it here. It's also exportable, which I think is pretty cool. Patrons like to export that, and you can save searches. So if you read a certain series and you want to run a search once a week to see if there's a new Flavia DeLuce book coming out, Alan Bradley, you can create a search here. And then once a week or whenever you come here, you can just click a little button, it'll run the search for you. It tells you how many results there are right now. It doesn't tell you whether there's new results, I don't think. Oh, I don't have any saved. Oh, I do have Flavia. That's maybe the one mystery series that I read. It is delightful. Sweetness at the bottom of the pie. And down here, you can see recent searches that I've done. You can remove these at any time. delete my unsaved searches. And it's really easy. If you ever want to say, okay, I'm going to run another Miranda July search next week, just click the save button and it hangs out in your account until you come back and you click save again. Reading history is, of course, optional. Patrons can opt in, opt out. I don't know what's on there, so I'm not going to go there.
It's just a testing.
That is true. This isn't me. So is there anything else I can show you here on Aspen before I pop us over to the test system and look at a couple of things?
I have a question.
Sure.
For whenever we, from going from our new thing, our thing we have now to this, will the patrons, lists go from this one to each other?
So it's interesting. There is, I would try this in the test system from a library where a patron may have had lists in Evergreen Path. None of our patrons did, so we weren't able to test it. But if you go to your lists, there is a button that says import from old catalog.
It imported mine.
And I don't know, did it work?
Good, because that's.
That's
I think
great.
that would be a question for our patrons.
Okay, yeah.
We'll get really, if they've created a list for themselves, I think that was what a patron would want. My list is gone, and that would be, they'd be panicking.
Unfortunately, we did hear, yes. We talked with our staff to let them know. I think we actually, at some point we hid that button. Now I'm like, why is the button here? Thinking about it. At some point I thought we hid the button because we knew that wouldn't work for our patrons and that they'd be disappointed because we told them they had to let go of their lists. So I'm going to pop us over to the test system. We do have a full Aspen test system, so you can play with things to your heart's content on here. Oh, I forgot to talk about system messages. That's okay. Up here at the top is an example of a system message. So really easy. It takes less than 30 seconds to make a banner in a bunch of different colors that can go at the top. You can have one that shows up all the time to help patrons remember their PIN, or you can have one that says, a tornado tore a hole in the roof of this branch and we will not be open. So a really easy way to create an alert for the top of your pack. And you can just do it from home, again, less than a minute. So if it's a snowy morning and you need to let everyone know, you can do it there.
What is that called again?
A system message. And those are specific to libraries. You can say, I want this to show at these locations only. So each library has their own, because otherwise that would be a bit of a mess. So on this library, I have enabled materials request, which none of our libraries have enabled yet, but which is a thing that Aspen can do. And on the test system, I moved myself to a different library so that this would work. So if you give your patrons a way to recommend purchases to the library, you can manage those through Aspen by enabling something called materials request. And you can see it, the patron can see it when they are logged in over here on the left side. If they have ever requested any materials, those requests will be here. It will also appear, I think with any empty search, it will offer a materials request. So the patron can choose to submit something to the library. This is also customizable by library. So we've got a little blurb here at the top. It says you have used 0 of your 60 yearly materials requests. Those numbers are editable by library. We also limit patrons to 5 active material requests at a time. That's also editable. You currently have 0 active requests. So if I had any open, they would be here. I made one last night. Maybe I didn't. Well, it doesn't matter because I'm going to click the button that says submit new materials request. And then it takes us to a little questionnaire, also highly customizable. This blurb at the top is just a piece that I took from Webster Grove's website to stick it into this form. It says, if you've heard of a recent book you think would make a good addition to the collection, we may not buy this, always an important caveat to add. And then down here, a bunch of different fields. You can select which fields will appear here for your patrons. So you can make this form very simple if you want, or you can add a whole bunch of fields. And then on the back end, it keeps track of the requests from patrons, and there are options for you to manage those by assigning them to staff. So you can make it so that your reference staff will get an email every time a patron submits a materials request. You can also have the system send automated messages based on the status of the materials request. So you can have a message that is created, for example, when a patron submits a materials request, that will go to the patron and say, thank you so much for your suggestion. We do the best we can with the limited funds that we have, and we will let you know if your request is successful, or whatever wording you think is appropriate. And then you can have another email where on the staff end, if a patron says, okay, accepted, we're going to purchase this, and the system can send an automated message that says, we've decided to purchase your material, you know, we'll place a hold on it for when it comes in or something, whatever, again, whatever your library thinks is best. Or another forum email that says, thank you for your suggestion. We've decided it doesn't meet our collection criteria at the time, something like that. So that is automatable from the back end. Form emails that you can have your staff people send by changing the statuses of the request, and then the patrons can check here for what's going on with the different requests that they have made. There's some other slightly fancier stuff that can do about like checking the system to see if there's anything that matches it, but I haven't dived into that yet. So
You may have said this at the beginning, but we have to be utilizing the Evergreen acquisitions model for this work, or is this strictly an Aspen thing?
I think it's just an Aspen thing.
Yes, Aspen is using for their people who want to send in things.
Yeah.
St. Joe Public has it
Oh,
and
good.
we get them used, it gets used. The funny thing is sometimes people also do it when they don't look for an item very well.
Yes.
We've actually changed one of the statuses, like, we have this book, we placed a hold for you.
That's smart.
Because they don't pay attention.
And you can just determine where that request goes, like
Yeah.
email sent.
You can determine who sees it and what actions they can take with it. And I love that status idea that y'all have. That's really great. If you ever want to take us on a tour of your materials request, I think that would be really fun.
Does anybody use it? So the people that are using it, are you using it as like an actual interlibrary loan request? as well,
I got it
or-
separate. Two different ones. I have interlibrary loan and.
So there's an option here. It says, do you want us to borrow from another library if not purchased? You can choose whether or not that shows up. So it's like sort of offering the ILL option to your patron if you decide not to buy it. So.
Are you able to show the book back end looks like for staff?
I'm not sure that the admin account I have has the Webster privileges on it, but I bet our colleague could show us. Yeah, can we do it? Can we do it post session and then, or, you know, at the end? It does require a little bit of setup. Like at the beginning, it doesn't look like much because you have to add in the fields that you want to populate. And then the emails are all form emails and there's a bunch of them that you're probably not going to use, but.
I have a question.
Sure.
We just got a thing called library marketing, I think, it's for the calendar. Our website calendar.
Yeah.
Or we could schedule to use study rooms and do all that. Do you think this will? It does, you just don't have library marketing.
None of us have calendars that can tie in. Yours ties in. Can we look at?
Well, it ties into it, because ours is the website, which has our calendar, so for instance, like, it'll populate events. So if you did a search for example, was telescopes or astronomy, then it would pop up in the program. That keyword. Do that on the cal.
Yes.
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 We just.
Yeah.
Works beautifully with the one.
Searching the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna search the help documentation for it, and then I went off in the wrong direction on it. All right, so the next thing I was gonna talk about that we have not quite done yet. One fun thing is that you can upload a default cover for your library. So if you don't like the mysterious shapes for an item that has no cover, you can upload a default cover and say, this is the default cover we want you to use for anything that's not pulling a cover from synthetics. So we have a nice sort of showing it. It's a small version, this little sort of teal guy here. But you can also do a thing which we haven't done yet, and that is for Library of Things items and kind of for anything really, you can upload a cover specific to your things that will display for your patrons to help you see that this is a fishing pole. So you can literally take pictures of your fishing poles and hotspots. If that's a bib that you share with other libraries, you would probably want to coordinate with them about that if they were an Aspen library. But if it's a hotspot bib, it's only got your hotspots on it. Hotspot's not very exciting, but maybe it's more exciting than your patrons looking at the mysterious geometric forms. So
If you have put in a custom image in Evergreen for your library of things or whatever, it does not automatically go into Aspen. You have to do it both of those.
that's a very good point. So the other thing, we're sort of still working on this, but for libraries out there that have novelist, are there any libraries here that have novelist? Okay. There's a couple ways you can, so you saw the way that novelist looks in just our current live production Aspen. There is another option for novelist's appearance. And I'm working with EBSCO support on this right now. It's called Novelist All-in-One. And you can add this to the title display for your library's Aspen, and it looks a lot better. But since Aspen has those built-in features already that say similar authors, similar titles, there's a consideration, like, do we need an additional database to make those recommendations if we are already seeing recommendations? So that's a question that libraries will have to consider, but this looks more similar to what we've been used to in past catalog. So this is called Novelist All-in-One, and I just found out about it, which is why I'm telling you.
And that's only if you
about it.
subscribe to the higher version.
Yeah, not the integration, which is select.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay. There's two of them, and I can't ever remember which one is which. And then I know there's more you can do with Aspen that we haven't done yet. If you have an EBSCO, like certain EBSCO things, you can link those things together so that when people search for consumer reports and Chilton car guides, like, you can make those things come up in the search results. We are not quite that far down the road yet, but I look forward to the ways that we'll be able to improve Aspen in future.
I'm waiting for you to figure it out.
I would not hold your breath.
For Bethany.
So that's all I had for you.
Is there, what's the training like? Is there tutorials or what?
Yes, there are, let's see, we had a session as part of our migration about Aspen and Aspen admin. And then, not that you want to watch me talk again, but I did record videos for our staff about Aspen basics and a few Aspen admin things, how to add system messages, how to do some basic things on the back end that you're welcome to look at. But Steve might have more to say about that when he talks about what it would mean to implement Aspen for your library. So I think there's 15 Aspen instances right now. You can see that the library shortcode up here, this is test. I mean, it's the same, but this MoDiscovery URL. So if you type in mlc.modiscovery.org, it'll bring up the MLCs. And I think if you do CAS, so just type in the shortcode for the libraries that have Aspen, and you can see the different ways that the libraries have been able to make Aspen reflect their individual libraries.
Yeah, okay, so as Heather was mentioning, there are 15 total libraries part of the original pilot project, and 9 came on as part of the MLC migration, and 6 came on. The 6 that came on independently are going to be, if you are currently not an Aspen library, their experience is going to be very similar to your experience. They were legacy Evergreen libraries and kind of came on. A lot of what happened in MLC is their Aspen implementation kind of got smushed up with their migration, and so it's kind of hard to divide that out. But so you could talk to one of those legacy libraries to talk about what that is like. In many ways, it was like another migration where we had migration calls, there were spreadsheets to fill out with options that, very similar to that, but not nearly as comprehensive. It didn't take 6 months to bring it on board, but it was a very similar sort of process. And in terms of getting on the installation calendar, it's very similar to like a migration that you would contact Missouri Evergreen and say, hey, I want to do this. I would contact Equinox. We can figure out when we could work it into the calendar, work backwards. There would be, there's training sessions by the trainers. There's meetings usually with Rogan and people like that, so that you fill out the forms and then you test it out.
Do you anticipate that being done by like a cohort where if, within every 6 months, we're gonna just do it at once, or like a rolling thing?
I think
I'm just thinking of the training process.
No, I think a lot of it's going to be up to Equinox and what it is that they feel like they can handle. I really visualize it almost being one-offs because I think it'll be hard to get people together. And as you can see, the outcome is very customized. So, because you do it this way, the other person may not be doing it. And when we did the cohort of the pilot, we did kind of do everything together. But I could see where we might want to kind of do it individually. But let me talk a little bit. So that's the process. And like I said, I'm visualizing this as one-offs, so you wouldn't have to like get 5 friends or anything like that. But in terms of the pricing, it's actually pretty straightforward. This is one of the things that I kind of negotiated and worked with Equinox about. So libraries that were part of Missouri Evergreen before 2025, and it's just the easy way to remember the date's actually different, but the easy way to remember is before 2025. So if you were a part of Missouri Evergreen for 2025, your installation cost is $2,500. And so that's what it costs to migrate. If you join after 2025, which right now doesn't apply to anybody, but whoever our next new library is to come on board, their installation charge is $4,000, and it's because of it's technical. I can explain to you why it's different. There is a reason why it's different. And so that's what it costs to migrate. And then so that's a one-time cost. The ongoing cost is that Aspen runs on its own server. So it doesn't run on the same production server as what you use for circulation and your kernel. And so there's a separate maintenance and support that's associated with that. That maintenance and support is based on the number of MARC records or good records that we have as a system. Right now we have what Galen, 1.3, 1.4. The target is 2 million. So once we get to 2 million, then we have to pay more. But for now, it's an annual fee of $15,000 split amongst all the Aspen users. And there's been some preferencing. We've been trying to figure out how to split that pie. But the bottom line is, it feels like the more people who join Aspen, the lower the incremental cost of that should be. Let's see. I think that was all of the major points. So yeah, I mean, so this looked interesting, and personally, I thought discovery layers were a big thing because you can get your customers to identify a book and easily check out a physical book or an ebook, and you can really push that digital content, which is advantageous. So if this looks good to you, then contact Missouri Evergreen, and we will start talking with Equinox and try to figure this out. And then I wanted to let you know what pricing is, so that you would understand what that is. That's what I got.
When? Do we have to wait for the pilot projects to be done?
Pilot project's done.
We're done.
We're done.
It's done. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I understood it. We have a website, but we go to this, we don't have to do that website anymore, right?
That's what Equinox will tell you. I'm not sure how many people.
Well, we actually haven't, yeah.
Aspen's our catalog, but you can do those.
There are libraries out there
I
that did
just
that.
wanted to sell it to Carrie, because that's what I'm anyway, so.
You would basically put the link somewhere on your existing website.
Yeah.
Just like your
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of
So
that.
what
There
they're
is-
trying to say is for small libraries that can't afford their own website, you can
Yeah.
use this as your website.
Yes.
But if you already have an established website, especially if you can't get library market for a calendar, I don't think you want to use that as your website.
You're not.
Well, but even for your calendar.
Let it go through this, but I want to get rid of the webmaster.
Well, it is a standard.
No,
It's
that would
it's a standard. It's a standard idea that, I mean, I've heard this for years when they first started launching discovery layers. That a discovery layer can serve as your library's website if you choose to do so.
It's called Web Builder. This
Yeah.
is gonna be a bad search. It's gonna, oh, great, yeah,
Others, whatever.
here we go. The Bywater documentation is actually excellent.
It is.
So you can build pages as part of your library's Aspen that are just information about your library. And then if you want to keep that catalog search at the top all the time, you can do that. But they have said that for some small libraries, it can make sense to just have one website. And so I think eventually maybe the MLC site, the consortium site, it's not a lot of traffic, but it's critical information. We might consider moving that over here. We save all that hosting cost. And there's not that many pages to it, so.
Like Galen mentioned this morning, he said something, if the only presence you have online is like a Facebook page or something, that's kind of the situation that this could be helpful.
Or if you have a website and haven't been updated in 3 years.
Nobody here has that situation. I was too.
So everybody will eventually want Aspen, right? Or will we always have Evergreen and Aspen?
The way I set this up, I mean, because that's the way that it was originally pitched to us, all of United First. That's what Evergreen, Indiana, they migrated the entire consortium. But what I kept saying is that as large and as diverse as our membership is, I can't get all those cats herded and headed in one direction. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build the infrastructure. The analogy I kept using is, we're gonna build the interstate highway system. And when you can buy a car, then you can play along. And that's the idea. So the idea is that they'll be at OPAC, for as long as we can. I can see maybe way down the road when maybe, 80-20 rule, 80% of the people are in Aspen and there's 20% that are still, that, I can see where Evergreen might say, okay, everybody's got to go to Aspen now. But at this point, there's been no conversation. But this is just an option. If this is something that's interesting to you, then you can pursue it.
So we don't know either, is it 20 libraries a year that can do this quite effectively, or?
Have no idea. We haven't really talked with, my feeling, it's really hard to evaluate Aspen relative to MLC because it was so involved with the entire migration. But when we migrated 6 libraries simultaneously with the 6 legacy libraries, I don't want to speak for you all, but it seemed like it was doable, it was manageable with the workflow that the Equinox had, and it worked out okay.
It was really doable, but for my library, we had somebody who just really had fun with it and explored it. So it can be daunting, and you may have already covered this. There are so many choices, but it does take some time. So are you gonna try to cookie cutter something so that some libraries don't have to make all those choices? That was daunting for some people. Not everybody has the Bethany.
Yeah, and that's, when I was the one doing it as a director, obviously I had a full-time day job. So this was a side project. And I didn't want to shove it off the staff. And so we had our own go live dates. So even though we were a group of 6, we didn't all 6 go live at the same time. The system went live, but we didn't have to turn ours on until we were ready.
Okay. And Equinox or Evergreen is still always on until we.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, I've heard some interesting stories from people about how you migrate, how you sort of flipped from OPAC to Aspen, and I don't know if anyone wants to hear it, because you actually have both of them running.
Yeah, but
to this day.
But we had, first we showed, when you click for catalog, it took you to the old version, but right underneath it, try our new, so you could go to both. So we had that for a while, and then we flipped that to where what you clicked in first was where we want you to end up being. Just in case you're not comfortable, you can still use this. And then at some point, it's just X. So how would that affect the Cape Cod you were just talking about?
APAC would still be an option within OPAC, although I also know that Equinox is very interested in creating a children's version of Aspen. So it hasn't been done.
And we just turned it on. We just switched only to the new account to Aspen.
Yeah.
We still have a link to the old OPAC on there. But
The other thing is if your patrons have bookmarked the old one.
Yeah.
So when we have to do our monthly stats and you have to get your OPAC numbers, we still have OPAC numbers showing up, not just Aspen numbers. Because people have a bookmark.
Thinking about new people, is it possible to export and import? The sales. Well, never do another.
I think, some of them you can. I know that the menu links can be copied over really easily, because I did that for all of us. It's probably more of an Equinox question.
I didn't hear the questions.
If you can easily export settings from one library's Aspen instance to create another Aspen instance based on those settings.
So it's not a built-in, it's also something that we would facilitate. It's just some of these settings, say.
That would probably be good to have a bare bones template, you know, like what we're saying to me.
With some decisions made. Yeah, that's
Right,
really
right.
good.
I mean, that's what the mech level is
Yeah.
basically, I think, because if you don't wish to make changes and have a specific instance, separate instance for your library, I think you can just inherit all those settings. You know, it's kind of like the library settings editor. You don't make a change to your library's org unit setting, you're just pulling from whatever is above you, I think.
And certainly as far as the display, I think it's sort of use on this start to back that wire. Sense of that customization.
So I could see coming out of this, we have 5 libraries that want to do it on that, you know, they are really interested. So, I mean, I understand.
Yes.
You're not saying that that has to be instance by instance. There could potentially be,
A couple.
yeah.
I mean, I think so. I mean, again, I really feel like that decision is more of an Equinox decision. And in terms of how they would like to handle this and, you know, maybe, I mean, like I was saying, our idea of having the cohort of 6 people coming in, 6 libraries coming in. That, you know, it generally worked okay from our perspective, but maybe it was a disaster from their perspective. And I haven't heard that yet. So.
Yeah, and it wasn't, it was, I don't mean to say it was us. I think, from what point of view, the cohort model makes sense. It could be more than 6. We wouldn't want to do. I think basically what you can do is, if we know generally, is of everybody who's interested in any general economy constraints, like, let's say somebody might choose to say, we want to wait till wait or something like that. Then do we want a proposal that groups up everybody in. So that science over lots of vague words. But, yeah, that is just something, that, we need to work on. A more flash off that time. Say what's everybody in, but.
Yeah, I would say step 1 is if you're interested in this, let me know, and I can begin to figure out if there is a cohort potentially available. It ends up that it piques a lot of interest, but you go back and you look at your budget and you go, no, maybe not. There's just one person, then, or one library, then I'll contact this time. Maybe in a while and see what they have. Yeah. But first, then go back and figure out. Yeah.
Me. Yes, please. Sorry, hesitant. But there's. I'm just waiting for the moment to say, yes, we can do it.
Okay, so if anyone wants to join Sue, and joining Sue is usually a fun thing to do.
Yeah. I make it fun.
Yeah, just let me know and we'll start working on it. Yeah. I think that all you have.
I mean, after you stop the share, if Bethany wants to show the customized material request that they're using, I'd like to see it. If you don't mind being put on the spot a little bit.